Well, it's Mother's Day, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about mothers. The title of this message is Like a Mother's Love, the Nurturing Heart of God. And so I'm going to give you an opportunity, since everyone has a mother, that you get an opportunity to give a little testimony of your mother. If you have a memory of your mother being comforting, at some point there was a time you remember, I remember when Mom did this for me kind of thing, or a time when she was protective, or a time that she was very sacrificing. All right, then we'll continue. The Bible's filled with motherly images to describe God's care for us, showing His tenderness and His compassion and His protection. And I find it comforting and a little bit enlightening to realize that the best qualities of God He placed within His creation. All the strength of God and all the nurturing of God He placed into Adam and Eve. The differences being that Adam got a little more strength than Eve did, and Eve got a little more nurturing than Adam did. But they were both a blend of the same characteristics. I find it very, it's just amazing that God would create us originally to be so much like Himself, and that God created the woman to be exactly what Adam needed to fulfill his obligations in the world. I want to talk about God's love, and the first thing I want to suggest is that God's love is comforting. And I'm going to be looking at several scriptures today. I'm going to look at Isaiah 66 and verse 13 right now. And it says, and this is God speaking, as one whom his mother comforts, so I will comfort you, and you shall be comforted in Jerusalem. So many phenomenal things through the Old Testament when God was taking care of His people. We tend to remember the things when He was placing a sense of judgment on them for their actions. And if we're not careful, we'll think of Him as a mean God. But He was doing that out of love and comfort. He wanted His people to be in the right stead with Him, because that would be the best place that they could be. And He would do everything He could to keep them close to Himself, because He wanted them close to Himself. So just as a mother calms a hurting child, God comforts us in times of distress. I find it difficult to understand and to explain that as I look back through my childhood, now I can see where God was doing things in my life to comfort me and protect me when I didn't even really know who He was or that He was. But there were so many things that He did for me. I want to look at right now how God comforted Elijah in the wilderness. I'll be looking at 1 Kings chapter 19, starting at verse 1. And it says, "And Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, also how he had executed all the prophets with the sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah, saying, 'So let the gods do to me, and more also, if I do not make your life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time.' And when he saw that, he arose and ran for his life, and went to Beersheba, which belongs to Judah, and left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat down under a broom tree. And he prayed that he might die, and said, 'It is enough. Now, Lord, take my life, for I am no better than my fathers.' Then as he lay and slept under a broom tree, suddenly an angel touched him, and said to him, 'Arise and eat.' Then he looked, and there by his head was a cake baked on coals, and a jar of water. So he ate and drank, and lay down again. And the angel of the Lord came back a second time, and touched him, and said, 'Arise and eat, because the journey is too great for you.' So he arose and ate and drank, and he went in the strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights as far as Horeb, the mountain of God. And there he went into a cave, and spent the night in that place. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, and he said to him, 'What are you doing here, Elijah?' In 1 Kings, the prophet Elijah has been overwhelmed with great victories, and also bold threats from Jezebel. And so he flees into the wilderness, feeling hopeless and asking God to take his life. It's hard to imagine that he had called down rain, fire from heaven, and executed all of these prophets. That's a tremendous victory for one man to accomplish as God was guiding him. And yet, after all of that, one woman threatened him, and he ran for fear of his life. He falls asleep under a broom tree, and an angel wakes him up and provides food and water, and urging him to eat and to rest, because he has a long journey ahead. 40 days and 40 nights traveling without additional food or water. That's an amazing journey. Now, I did 7 months one time that way. No, it was actually a dream I had once. I guess I was really hungry when I went to bed that night. 40 days and 40 nights. That's amazing. This passage highlights God's care for Elijah in his moment of despair, showing that even exhaustion and fear, God's always quite near to help out. I don't know if you've ever experienced anything similar to what Elijah had, but I would imagine you've had some difficulties in life, and you'll have some more. If you're here today, God has brought you through some difficulties already. He's proven himself to you. and he will prove himself comforting again. Learn to trust in God's abiding presence and his peace. I don't know if you recall, but the verses that I read in the beginning were around the idea of God's peace and comfort and protection and provision. The God that knows you very well. He knows things about you that you don't know yet. He has plans for you. And one day you begin to realize the plans that he has for your life. You can trust him. Secondly, God is protective. And I want to look at Psalm 91. Chris, would you like to read Psalm 91?
The one who lives under the protection of the Most High dwells in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. He himself will deliver you from the hunter's net, from the destructive plague. He will cover you with his feathers. You will take refuge under his wings. His faithfulness will be a protective shield. You will not fear the terror of the night, the arrow that flies by day, the plague that stalks in darkness, or the pestilence that ravages at noon. Though 1,000 fall at your side and 10,000 at your right hand, the pestilence will not reach you. You will only see it with your eyes and witness the punishment of the wicked, because you have made the Lord my refuge, the Most High, your dwelling place. No harm will come to you, no plague will come near your tent, for he will give his angels orders concerning you to protect you in all your ways. They will support you with their hands, so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. You will tread on the lion and the cobra. You will trample the young lion and the serpent. Because he is lovingly devoted to me, I will deliver him. I will protect him because he knows my name. When he calls out to me, I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will rescue him and give him honor. I will satisfy him with a long life and show him my salvation.
When you trust God to be your shelter, he protects you. God shields us under his wings of love as a mother protects her children. Let me just add something to your testimony, Chris. Your mother being a comfort. She's also a protector. She protects all of her children from everybody, even me. She is a protector. God is a far greater protector than any of our mothers can be, because he is God. I want to look at Moses' mother, Jochebed. She trusted in God's protection. And that's in Exodus chapter 2. It's the beginning story of Moses' life. Verse 1 says, "And a man of the house of Levi went and took as wife a daughter of Levi. So the woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw that he was a beautiful child, she hid him 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she took an ark of bulrushes for him, daubed it with asphalt and pitch, and put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the riverbank. And his sister stood afar off to know what should be done to him. Then the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river, and her maidens walked along the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it. And when she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. So she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you?" And the Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." So the maiden went and called the child's mother. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed him, and the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. So she called his name Moses, saying, "Because I drew him out of the water." Exodus chapter 2 is telling the story of Moses' birth and his early life. A Levite woman, Jochebed, gives birth to a son and hides him for 3 months to protect him from Pharaoh's decree that all the Hebrew male children would be killed, the infants, and which she could no longer hide him. I'm assuming that began to be noisy and mobile to where he would be noticed. She took him and put him in a basket and hid him along the Nile River. And Pharaoh's daughter had pity on him and decided that she wanted to raise him as her own. And eventually, Moses' mother became his nurse under the rule of Pharaoh's daughter. Don't you know God has a plan of protecting his own? He knew before Moses was born that Moses was going to serve him. He knew exactly how he was going to serve him. He knew that it was necessary that the baby Moses would survive. And so he not only lets him live, he lets him live in Pharaoh's palace as part of the family. Only God could do that. It's a powerful story of survival, divine intervention, and the beginning of Moses' journey as a leader. Beloved, God is always aware of where you are, and you are safe in his hands, even in the storms of life. God is protective in his love. Thirdly, God's love is sacrificial. God's love is sacrificial. I'll be looking at one that you've got memorized, John 3:16. John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life." Don't you know that God's love for humanity was sacrificial to the point of allowing his Son to die for us? A mother's love is sacrificial. I have personally observed 3 mothers very closely. My mother, Ruthie's mother, and my children's mother. And I'm here to tell you, I have experienced the protective nature of all 3 of those mothers. I will just share one, and she didn't even know what she was doing for sure. Ruthie's mom. There was a time years ago that one of the family's neighbor's son had been arrested for molesting children and was sentenced to many years. I think it was like 25 to life or something like that for molesting children. And we found out at one point after he was incarcerated that he had been targeting some of my children. But their grandmother had the instinct to not allow him to be alone with them. She didn't know why, other than God warned her somehow that it would not be right for him to be alone with these children. And she didn't know he had that problem. This was before he was ever arrested. And moms and grandmas are protective. And Chris, your mother's still protective. A mother will sacrifice everything for her child, just like God gave his son for us. Now I want to look at 1 Samuel. Talk about another mother. Hannah. Isn't that a pretty name, Hannah? 1 Samuel chapter 1, the last 2 verses, 27 and 28. And this is Hannah speaking. For this child I prayed, and the Lord has granted me my petition, which I asked of him. Therefore I also have lent him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he shall be lent to the Lord. So they worshiped the Lord there. This tells the story of a woman, Hannah by name, who had prayed a long time for a child. And in her desperation, she made a vow to God. And she said basically this: Lord, if you'll give me a son, I will give him back to you. Now, similar to the one previous with Moses, when Hannah's son Samuel was born, she had the privilege, the honor of nursing him until such a time that he could live on his own, take nourishment on his own. Yeah, I don't know what the routine is today as far as a mother nursing a child. It was not uncommon in those days that a mother would nurse a child 3 or 4 years until there was child was getting around pretty well. So Hannah was blessed in that sense that God blessed her with a child and then let her care for him and raise him until he was weaned. And she kept her vow. She gave him back to God to be God's servant all of his life. And if you read more of the story, you'll discover that she would visit him maybe once a year in the temple. She acknowledged that Samuel was a gift of God, and she gave him back. Very seldom will you find someone today that's in a situation like that. But occasionally you'll find a mother or a grandmother who will pray for that child to serve God and pray all of their lives that they will. And usually the child is not aware that the mother or grandmother is praying for them. Because sometimes a child is more obstinate when they find out mom's praying for them, trying to make it hard for mom. It's a powerful moment of surrender and faith. If you've ever experienced something similar to this in your life. My mom prayed for me through Vietnam, and also through my adult years, married years. But my grandmother wanted me to serve God. And I never knew. So it's Grandma's fault. Grandma's fault. God does some interesting things. I sent my grandmother a letter after I was saved and was called into ministry, thanking her for her years of prayer. Little did I know she kept that letter in her Bible from that point on. She passed away 3 months short of 100. And I was out of seminary by this time and just barely getting by. And I couldn't afford to go back to Arkansas where her funeral was. And they had invited me to go, but I couldn't afford to go. But I wanted to go and I wanted to say something. But I didn't go. And then I got a tape recording of the funeral service several weeks later and discovered that the pastor that did her service found my letter in her Bible and read it. So in a sense, I was there anyway. Sacrificial love. That's what God gives to us, has given and continues to give. I want to challenge each of you as a church to reflect God's love by serving others selfishly. That you be a comforter, you be a protector, and you be sacrificial in your love towards others, here in the church and outside of the church. God's love reflects the depth of a mother's love, but his is far greater. Rest in his love, trust in his comfort, and share his nurturing care with the world around you. Let's pray together. Father, it's with a great deal of gratitude that we thank you for your love and the mothers that you have provided for us. Mothers who have reflected your love in one degree or another. And Lord, each of us needs to make a commitment that we will be examples of your love, so that the world around us can see that we're uniquely different and that we are worthy of being imitated by the way we live. In Jesus' name, amen.